Even if America were completely destroyed, it would still be able to strike back at whoever targeted it. But not from the White House, not even from the Pentagon. It'd be from the heart of a mountain in the state of Colorado. Inside the mountain there is a complete city, tunnels, steel doors, and military buildings. A place from which wars are run, and which could be the last refuge for the President of the United States. Cheyenne Mountain Complex, the most terrifying shelter in history. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, the goal was clear. A fortified place that would remain even if Washington and New York were destroyed. A place able to withstand a massive nuclear blast. A place that could run a third world war from underground. In 1966, the New York Times described this bunker as the strongest shelter on the face of the earth. From the moment it opened, its name was tied to fear. Fear of Soviet missiles and fear of the end of the world. But it was also tied to legend. It appeared in movies, video games, and in people's imagination as a symbol of doomsday. Today, after decades, the question remains, is Cheyenne Mountain still America's secret shield? Or is it just a relic of the Cold War? Come, and let us tell you the story of a birth in a time of terror. In the 1950s, the world was changing. America and the Soviet Union were in a crazy arms race. Every year, more nuclear warheads, more intercontinental missiles, and more tests underground and in the ocean. According to a U.S. Department of Defense report in 1959, the threat was no longer theoretical. The enemy could strike the heart of America within minutes. That meant one thing. Even if Washington was destroyed, there had to be a command center. But where? The answer? Underground. In a rock formation protected by nature. The search took years, and in the end, the choice fell on Cheyenne Mountain. Why Cheyenne? First, its rock is hard granite. A 1960 geological study by the University of Colorado said Cheyenne granite could absorb a blast wave equal to tens of megatons. Second, its location is inland, far from the coast, meaning it's far from Soviet nuclear submarines, while sitting amid a network of air bases in Colorado. Third, it's close to Colorado Springs, a thoroughly military city with bases, airfields, and arms factories. In 1961, digging began. Work went on day and night. Workers, engineers, and soldiers. Tons of explosives were used to open tunnels. Millions of tons of rock were moved outside. The result was a huge tunnel network and a space big enough to build 15 steel buildings underground. Each massive building was made of steel and set on huge steel springs to absorb any shock. Even if a nearby nuclear detonation occurred, the building would shake and then settle without collapsing. The doors weighed about 25 tons of steel and could close within seconds. Hundreds of military personnel went down inside. According to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, the cost reached $142 million in 1966, equivalent to more than $1.5 billion today. The opening took place in February 1966, in the presence of many military leaders. At that moment, Cheyenne Mountain became America's secret brain. It became the main headquarters of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, known as NORAD. The command that controlled most of the United States nuclear force, and at the same time housed the highest military ranks. That means it was the entity capable of defense and attack in the event of war. The 1960s ended, and the 1970s began. Fear still filled the sky. America and the Soviet Union were on the edge of an explosion. Here the peak years began. Inside this bunker, they watched the entire sky. They tracked every signal, every flash, every light, every movement in space. According to a 1972 U.S. Department of Defense report, the complex could continue operating even if a 30-megaton nuclear blast occurred a few kilometers away. This was not just a building, but a complete city under the rock. 15 steel buildings separated from the mountain and placed on giant springs weighing 1,000 tons to remain stable against any shock. Inside was a mix of military routine and psychological nightmare. Small mess halls for soldiers, narrow windowless sleeping quarters, air constantly filtered against gas and radiation, and deep water tanks fed from the mountain's layers. Everything was prepared so the hundreds of soldiers could live there for weeks without any outside contact. But the true heart of the complex was the operations rooms, dozens of screens and giant computers. According to the archives of the U.S. Air Force, it housed the ANFYQ system, the largest computer in the world at the time. Its job was to analyze data from radars in Alaska and Canada, along with signals from satellites orbiting the Earth, drawing red lines on the screens. Each line could mean a Soviet intercontinental missile. Each line could mean the beginning of the end of the world. In 1979, a near disaster occurred, a false alarm. The computer displayed a massive attack of 200 Soviet missiles. In the first minute, America prepared to respond. Officials called up nuclear aircraft that were about to take off. But after minutes, it turned out to be an error. A training tape had been loaded into the computer by mistake. The Washington Post said in November 1979 that the world was minutes away from a nuclear war because of a software error. In 1980, there was another error, and in 1983, a new alarm. Each time proved that even the mightiest strongholds could fall in a single stroke. But despite the mistakes, Cheyenne Mountain remained the brain that watched the world and waited for a moment that might never come. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, the Berlin Wall fell, and the world changed. The Cold War ended, the nuclear threat diminished, people celebrated, but inside Cheyenne Mountain the feelings were different. Soldiers wondered, is our mission over? Is the nuclear bunker still necessary? The Pentagon began to recalculate. According to the Department of Defense in 1992, strategic risks had decreased, operating costs were huge. The place consumed tremendous energy and millions of dollars annually, with thousands of employees and equipment needing constant maintenance. In 2006, the official announcement came. NORAD would move its headquarters from Cheyenne Mountain to a nearby Peterson Air Force Base. The news hit like a thunderbolt. For the first time in 40 years, the bunker was no longer the heart. The media described it as the end of a legend. Channels like CNN said the nuclear fortress has become just a backup. But did the mountain die? The answer is no. The place was not closed or abandoned, but turned into an emergency plan. If an attack occurred or above-ground command failed, Cheyenne Mountain was ready to open its doors again. The years passed. The mountain remained, but silent. The threats didn't disappear, they only changed. The fear was no longer Soviet missiles. The new fear was cyber attacks, modern cruise missiles, and, most dangerous, electromagnetic pulse, EMP. An EMP is a detonation in the sky that generates a wave wiping out electrons, computers, communications, power grids. In 2015, the Pentagon announced a surprise. A sensitive command was returning to Cheyenne Mountain. Admiral William Gortney told Fox News, "We repurchased the complex because it is protected against EMP." And this is what's needed now. Suddenly, the mountain's name returned to the headlines. New defensive facilities were moved inside. The bunker returned to service again. Russia tested new weapons. China developed hypersonic missiles, and North Korea conducted nuclear tests. Amid all these dangers, Cheyenne Mountain appeared to be rising from the ashes. But Cheyenne Mountain's story didn't remain only in politics. It moved into popular culture. Cinema adopted its image. The 1983 film War Games made it the center of global decision-making. The series Stargate SG-1 turned it into a gate to space. And many video games portrayed it as a doomsday shelter. The media fed the legend. Images of the massive doors, deep corridors, and old screens. The Guardian wrote in 2018, "Cheyenne Mountain is not just a military facility. It is an American symbol of survival at the end of the world." In the American imagination, the mountain is the last refuge, the place that survives while everything on the surface collapses. From the specter of Soviet missiles to cyber threats, Cheyenne Mountain has remained a symbol of power, a symbol of fear, and a symbol of survival. A place built to stand tall if cities fall, a place designed to live even if the world dies. Today it is no longer the main center, but it is present, ready and prepared to open its doors if doomsday comes. The bunker that does not die, the mountain that holds America's stone heart, and the question remains, Will it remain just a memory of the Cold War, or will it one day return to be the last line of defense in a war that has not yet begun?